Not that one. Welcome to the Contra Costa Paratransit Coordinating Council meeting. Are we being recorded? Do I need to speak as though I were? Okay. This is our meeting of Monday, March the 19th at 2 p.m. at the Contra Costa Transportation Authority. And we'll start out with the Pledge of Allegiance. Rita, would you like to lead us? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And the next item is introductions. And would you like to start out, Rashida? I can't quite see very far. I forgot to put on my contacts today, so.
But you recognized me, though.
I did.
Rashida Kamara, Manager of Accessible Services, County Connection, Central Contra Costa Transportation Authority.
Hi, I'm Lisa Hammond. I'm the alternate for Debbie Toth for Choice in Aging in Pleasant Hill.
Hi.
I'm Sharon Keiki of Antioch Paratransit.
Deanna Perry with Eastern Contra Costa Transit Authority, or Tri-Delta Transit.
Michael Dowgelli, East County Paratransit Consumer.
And I'm Janet Abelson. I'm a consumer representing West Contra Costa County, and I'm the chair.
Rita Xavier, Contra Costa County Advisory Council on Aging.
Belinda Graham, City of San Pablo.
Janet Bilbis, City of El Cerrito. Lori Reese Brown, City of Richmond, Transportation Project Manager.
Mallory Brush, AC Transit for East Bay Paratransit.
Okay, let's see if I got everybody. Rashida, Lisa, Sharon, Deanna, Michael, Janet, Rita, Janet, Lori, Mallory. Did I miss somebody? Belinda. That's who it is. Okay. Now we'll move on to public comment, which is an opportunity for members of the public to speak on items that are not on the agenda. And we normally allocate about 3 minutes apiece. Are there any? Would you like to speak? Okay. You want to come to the microphone so we can all hear you? Thank you. And if you could start with your name.
Hello, my name's Bai Ibarra, and I'm the Executive Assistant to the Developmental Disabilities Council for Contra Costa County. So that's the role formerly occupied by Josh Sullivan. So I'm his replacement, and at some point, I believe at the next meeting, I'll be joining y'all up there. But in the meantime...
It's Vi as in V-I?
V-I.
V-I?
Mm-hmm, Vi,
okay.
And my last name is Ibarra.
And you spell that E?
I-B-A-R-R-A.
Welcome.
Thank you. So I just have an announcement, and since this is not a meeting that I've participated in the past, bear with me. I think this is an appropriate announcement to share with you all. I got something here from the California OES office. It's a training that's coming up, and I was asked to share this information. Specifically, the target audience they're looking for, it includes paratransit operators, and this is integrating access and functional needs into emergency management roundtable meeting taking place in April. So I brought some copies, and I'm wondering if I just might be able to leave them with somebody or share with the group in some kind of way.
Who would that be? Who would that be? Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then are there any other speakers in the public? Okay, thank you. And the next item is the approval of summary actions from the January 22nd meeting. Does anybody want to make it? Okay, go ahead.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion by Rita, seconded by Michael. And is there any further discussion from the audience even? Okay, seeing no one, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Any abstention? Motion carries.
Abstention.
Abstention.
Okay, so those, could you?
Janet and Mallory.
Thank you. Okay, the motion passes with 2 abstentions. And the next item on the agenda is number 2, which is the Fair Political Practices Commission Form 700 filing and the Conflict of Interest Training and the AB 1234 Ethics Certification Information. And that would be presented by Terry Ann, I'll bet.
Yes. Good afternoon, Paratransit Coordinating Council Committee Chair and committee members. I'm Terry Ann Grover, and I'm the clerk of the board here at the Authority, and I'm going to provide a brief overview of the Fair Political Practices Commission Form 700 filing and then the AB 1234 ethics training. So I'll go ahead and start off with the Form 700s. It's mandated by the Political Reform Act, which requires that all state and local government agencies adopt a conflict of interest code, establishing the rules for reporting personal assets and specifically designating agency positions that participate in the decision-making process, which includes all of our committees. If a conflict occurs when a member makes a decision that affects their personal assets or in which they might have a financial interest in the matter before the Paratransit Coordinating Council. An example of this would be a conflict of interest would be voting on recommendations for a contract where the member's spouse is an employee of the contractor. It is not a conflict of interest to vote on the annual paratransit allocations where the member is a writer or a representative of the system. An ordinance was adopted by the Authority in November of 2014, which designated the Paratransit Coordinating Council as well as all of our other committees as designated positions that were required to file a Form 700. As a committee member of the Authority, you regularly participate in governmental decisions through recommendations to the board that are regularly adopted. This consists of advising the board and staff on issues affecting paratransit services in the county, reviews and prioritizes paratransit funding applications as requested by the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, serves as a forum for paratransit service providers, promotes the development and coordination of a comprehensive integrated paratransit system, and performs other paratransit duties that are assigned by the Authority. So even if you have nothing that conflicts or nothing to report, you still have to file a Form 700. The filing requirements require an assuming office form filed within 30 days of being appointed to the committee annually on April 1st or the following Monday, which would be April 2nd of this year. And then within 30 days of leaving your office as a Paratransit Coordinating Council member. And so it's very important that when you do leave the committee that you provide personal information, personal email and contact information for that filing. Not filing a form can have a penalty of up to $10 per day and a maximum of $100, and it can be referred to the Fair Political Practices Commission. So it is important that you communicate that information and get your filings in on time. Last year, we implemented an electronic paperless filing system through NetFile. The Chair Abelson just filed yesterday and probably can share her second year of filing. Many of you are in your second year. Last year, we received 20 out of 21 filings that were filed electronically, so thank you. This year, we've already received 13 filings from this committee, and 12 were filed electronically. So there's been, it's been a really good turnover to going electronic, so thank you. The original request was sent out on January 9th, and reminders are going out every 3 weeks. And basically, you're filing on the 12 months prior or for the annuals the prior calendar year. So does anyone have any questions for me on the Form 700 process?
Michael?
Would you be able to confirm whether or not individuals have filed just for our information and record?
Yes, I can.
May I?
I received yours on January 20th, so you are good to go for this year.
Okay, and also for the ethics, will that be something that you have, or would you want to do that later?
I'm going to do that next, and Fifi is actually the contact person for the ethics training. I don't know if she has that record here. Is there any other questions on the Form 700 process? Okay, so I will move on to the ethics training, and then if there's any questions about filings, Fifi can answer that. So the AB 1234 ethics training is required by local transportation or local agencies by Government Code Section 53234. It requires local officials to receive at least 2 hours of training in general ethics principles and ethics laws relevant to your public service every 2 years. You have to take it within 1 year of being appointed, and then every 2 years thereafter. If you already have it on file with another agency, then you can just furnish that, and you're good until that expires after the 2 years. The training focuses on establishing and maintaining public trust, and that the representatives of the authority act with integrity, economy, fiscal prudence, and in a manner that retains and inspires the trust and confidence of the people that we serve. At completion, the Fair Political Practice Commission offers a free online training. At completion, a certificate is provided. It does record on there how long you spent in the training, so you want to make sure that you invest 2 hours, as that is required to meet the training requirement. At the end of it, you'll get that certification and you'll furnish it to Fifi. And you want to make sure that you take the local officials. If you go to the Fair Political Practices Commission website and you just look it up, it does provide a local and a state. The state does not satisfy the local requirements, so you want to make sure that you take the local training. And if you have any questions, that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Rita?
I have a question. I did this month for the city of San Pablo and Contra Costa County. So on the form, it just says City of San Pablo Planning Commission, but the county accepted that. I handed them a copy because you have to have the signature. So how do I get that to you?
You can just either have the city email it to me, or you can email it, to Fifi, or you can email it to Fifi.
Well, I can email it, but it wouldn't have my signature unless I take a photo of the certificate.
You do want to sign it and then send it over to her.
Yeah, because I can't scan it because I don't have a scanner. So in other words, can I take a photo of the signed certificate and email it?
Yeah, we get photos. They're not always the best quality, but it does satisfy the requirement. Or you can mail it to her.
Okay.
Other questions?
All right, thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. And now there's one more part to this, or is there? No, so she cut yours. Okay, great.
That's all.
Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda is a consideration of new member. Do you want to cover this, Peter, or do you want me? Okay. And I've forgotten Ralph's last name. Hoffman, that's right. Okay. So we met at the last meeting and considered Ralph Hoffman for who was applying to be a member of this committee, and we did have a few concerns, and they had to do with making sure that it was the interests of the riders who were represented as opposed to to financial interests, and that it's not our job to decide things other than those things related to Measure J, really. And so that means that we should be talking about providing services for all able-bodied seniors and also any disabled, disabled in particular, non-senior. We're not, it's not our role to do anything other than that. It's not our role to reduce the number of riders using paratransit or anything like that. So Ralph said he understood, and with that, we are, as committee, and the committee members were myself, and who else? Michael, and who else? Anybody? No, I don't remember. That was it? Okay. And that's been a while, so it's hard to remember. So we were the committee, and we recommend that Ralph become a member of this committee, and he would then be the only member from Central County. So now we have two? Yeah, Bill. He's not here, okay. And Ralph would take a seat at the next meeting. Is that true? Oh, as soon as we take a vote, okay. So with that, that would be my report on that meeting and that recommendation. So we can answer any questions, or you can make a motion. I guess not make a motion, but we're recommending that you make a motion of yes.
So moved.
Okay, and that was Mallory?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and Lori seconded it. Okay, any discussion? Okay, any discussion from the public? Seeing none. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. And Ralph, there's an empty seat right here if you want to come and take it. And I don't know if there's a name tag for him yet, or, okay. But there will be next time. So, just, I'll wait till you get up here before we move on. And welcome. And so the next item on the agenda is the West County Accessible Transportation Needs Assessment. And who's going to be doing this report?
Joanna Pollock from
Okay.
WICTAC is going to be presenting this for you today.
Okay, great. Thank you, Joanna.
Hi there. Good afternoon. Oh, you want me to sit? I like. Sorry. Okay. Good afternoon, Paratransit Coordinating Committee members and Madam Chair. I thought it was really convenient that everyone from West County sat on the same side. So, those of you who are not familiar with the study that we just recently completed, the members of West Contra Costa County, a lot of them right here today, came and met with us at WICTAC on what we call our mobility management group. And the WICTAC board allocated $75,000 for us to do a study. And I think I've heard Michael mention that, studies are potentially a waste of money and a waste of time. The good news, this study, I think, was very helpful to us. We've been having Measure C funds and Measure J funds going to different providers in West Contra Costa back in the day when Lisa was the executive director. And at the time that I came on board at WICTAC, Measure C was going into Measure J, and there were new additional funds. And also, right around that time, 2008, the recession hit. So we just proceeded to have, we, as in CCTA and WICTAC board, continue to allocate funds to all the existing operators in West County. Unlike Central County, where you have, I'm not even sure exactly, where you have mainly your transit operator, Tri-Delta in East County and in Central County Connection, they get the majority of your funds from Program 15. In West County, we have 5 operators. East Bay Paratransit, which is a combination of AC Transit and BART. WestCat, which provides Pinole all the way up to Crockett. And then we have city provider programs, City of Richmond, City of San Pablo, and the City of El Cerrito. So we're a little different over in West County. And when we did this study, we wanted to evaluate those programs that are being funded by Measure J and look at ways we could potentially enhance those programs, improve coordination between the multiple operators, and better serve the needs of the seniors and disabled in the community. So this is West Contra Costa. If you've never been there, it's beautiful. We do have a pretty transit-rich environment. So not only are we used to having paratransit and transit, we have the BART, we have Solana County. I think there's there it is, a slide that shows you we have Golden Gate. A lot of these transit providers meet at the Del Norte BART station hub. We have Capital Corridor, which comes into the Richmond BART station, And then we have, so on the top part of this, and I think all of you got it in your packet that Peter sent out. This is in the packet, the executive summary. We have these programs that I just mentioned, as well as we have some other services, shuttles, volunteer driver program, and travel training, which was run by the Center for Independent Living. So I'm going to go backwards. On the right-hand side of the slide, you can see there's just money bags, and it makes it sound like a lot of money is flowing, but it's never enough money, of course. We have money from the countywide Measure J, of which 5% goes to these programs, of which West County gets 35% of that 5%, of which we also have a little tiny, less than 1% additional funds. So this money trickles through. It starts, you've all done the claim forms. It starts at the top. You do your Program 15, and then if you have additional funds, 20B, you put it into your claim forms. Basically, it's $1.2 million annually that comes to West Contra Costa to serve senior and disabled programs. So we looked at a lot of data, and I'm just summarizing here. We did outreach to mainly senior center community groups. We did surveys. We had the consultants, Nelson Nygaard, come on and interview stakeholders. So a lot of my representation here in West County was done through members of the PCC. And we looked at the cost per trip. We looked at the type of trips people took, and this is a summary that shows you how many trips, 77,000 at the top. East Bay Paratransit runs a lot of trips. And down to 4,788, which is in San Pablo, which is a small geographic area, relatively small population. And then what average cost per passenger. So that was interesting to us to look at, because you can see it's as low as $24, or let's just say $25 in El Cerrito, and it's up to $107 in Richmond. So there's quite a spread, and there's different types of programs that are offered in each of these, by each of these agencies. What we heard back from people was that they really want the following things: travel training, which is really more about getting information to people, Clipper cards, workshops on how to download apps for Lyft and Uber, just information. So when we had gone out and talked to the senior centers, they were like, why don't you come again? Why don't you come to our local church? Why don't you come to, and we realized there is a need. Another concern was medical appointments, same-day appointments. So if you're trying to get somewhere and you're not feeling well, and let's say you do drive normally, but you don't want to drive that day, so you're not ADA certified, how do you get to an appointment? Same-day trips with evening and weekends. Not many services offer much on the weekend. As I mentioned, travel training outreach is really part of that. We also focused, and Lori's going to talk about this, I think, in a little bit, on the Richmond Our Transit program, which has been challenging. And then I'll let Lori tell you more about that. And in an effort to get Richmond's program functioning in a more effectual way, we are talking about improving coordination. Richmond has a huge geographic area because they serve unincorporated parts of the county, and it's almost impossible to get to Kensington and get to El Sobrante all in the same day. And then we also learned a lot about ride-hailing. They're also known as TNCs, Transportation Network Companies. And that's a growing market, and a lot of seniors are starting to think about, or people with disabilities who can use these services are thinking about them, not on a regular basis because they're rather expensive, but in some cases there are services that will actually assist you if you don't have a smartphone to get into a Lyft or an Uber vehicle. So that was enlightening. And we came up with some short-term strategies, and I'm not going to read them all, but I will say the second bullet, creating a travel orientation program, seemed like something we could do relatively easily. And then we came up with some long-term strategies, which really mean more money, more time to develop a mobility management center, a call center, more money to create microtransit, same-day trips. These are things that, had Measure X passed, we would have been looking at money like that. And at the time we started the study, Measure X was still in the development stages. So hopefully there will be future funds. So in the next 6 months, there's a possibility that there will be a county-wide study, and that's something that Peter can talk about. The county and CCTA have been looking at funding that. We're hoping that our transit challenges are also getting resolved. We're looking at phase 2, part of the Center for Independent Living. They're going to do additional travel training in West County. They got $200,000, and Janet's probably got in her packet. But Chair Abelson is on our board, and we're also asking the board this Friday for an additional $100,000 to enhance that grant. It's a 3-year grant. And then we're hoping to do some demo programs and new 5310 and anything that our board wants to fund with Measure J. All of the member cities are very supportive of getting out more service and more support for these programs. I think that's pretty much it. Was there something I was going to highlight? No, I'll answer any questions if you have them.
Questions from the board?
I'm curious. This is Mallory.
Okay, go ahead.
So CIL will be doing the travel training, and do they have numbers associated with the dollars? So it's
Yes.
a 3-year grant for 200 plus another 100, and what is their goal?
So their 5310 application specified, and I don't have it, well, actually I do have it in my binder, but they have certain goals of number of events and number of outreach and number of travel trainings they're going to do one-on-one and group trainings, and so they had to put that into their 5310 grant, of which they already got the funding for that, and we're asking them, is a 50% additional? You know, if they have 200, we're giving them another 100 or whatever the board decides, then they would need to bump it up by 50%. So they would be reaching more people, doing more events, doing more outreach, and I think we'd be able to enhance greatly what they had to ask for, I believe, 800,000, and then they got 200,000. So they were reaching, and they managed to get some money.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Lisa? Or were there 2 Lisas? Let's go that way, and then we'll go this way again.
Lori, Lisa.
So I had a couple of questions. In the executive summary for the R Transit, the cost per trip is listed at $107.07, but there's a footnote that says $163.84 per passenger. That came from a staff report to the city council. Maybe that's something to ask later on the R Transit part.
I'll take a stab at it, and I think it's really simple. As I understand that, 107 came from the data that Nelson Nygaard collected, and then later on in May of 2017, so not quite a year ago, the staff went to their council and presented options and considerations for improving the R Transit program. At that time, the data showed that it was about 163. So that's a very simple answer to probably what you could dig down and find out is more complex why those costs are so high.
Well, since the other Lisa, who's from Richmond.
Lori.
What?
I was going to ask.
Lori, I mean,
okay,
excuse
that's
me.
okay. I knew you meant. I knew what you meant. Okay.
And my problem is part of my disability is I don't remember names very well, so, and I can't see right now too well. So anyway, Lori.
I think part of that had to do with the number of trips per customer. That actually, I guess I would say that it didn't really remain constant, and that was due to staffing concerns and levels of staffing, as to why the cost was driven up. That answers your question, at least part of it.
Okay. So my other question, Joanna, is who's on the West County Mobility Management Group? Is it an official group?
No. So this group formed with encouragement from Peter because he said, out in West County, you guys got a lot of moving parts. And instead of just it all going to one operator, you've got several operators and they're doing different things. And he was right. Coordinating amongst ourselves would make sense. And in order to get this study done, we really had to get buy-in from the operators. So back in November of 2015, we started this group. We called it the Mobility Management Group. West County Mobility Management Group. Now it even has an acronym, of course, and we continue to meet every other month, more as a guidance and as a information sharing, and all of these members, all of the West County operators are on that group, and have done a great job in, I hope, feeling like it's helped them, but helped us at WCTAC really understand what's going on out in the real world.
Okay,
Right, yeah.
okay, I think we're ready to go over
So I had
go ahead,
the other
go ahead,
Lisa?
Lori.
Okay.
Lisa, the other Lisa, Lori. Now I'll never remember your name right. I thought I had it. That was my problem.
So, Joanne, I wanted to get more information on the ride-hailing service. Yes, that service is, you said, to assist seniors with getting into rides like Uber and Lyft rides. So
It's kind of generic. We're just saying that this is what we heard out there. These are the needs. People want to know about how to use, if they don't have a smartphone or they don't have the means financially, because the average trip is $16, how do they get an Uber or Lyft? And it has, I think all of these things are a piece of the puzzle. We didn't come up with something that says, here's what you need. I mean, a mobility management center with, whatever, how much money do we need? $2.5 million a year countywide. I don't know. That might have been something, but we didn't get into that kind of detail. We just said ride-hailing services are things that people want for different reasons, same-day trips or for occasional trips or weekend trips, because there's not much service on the weekend. So just like anywhere, people are starting to use Uber and Lyft or whatever. I'm just using those two as the generic Uber and Lyft type services to meet some of their needs.
Okay, go ahead, Janet, and then I have something. Go ahead.
I just want to add on to what Joanna said about the Uber and Lyft. I mean, the first time we did a presentation about Lyft, just how to use Lyft, we had well over 100 and some seniors show up for it.
Right.
And then just recently, we had Arrive come in and present to seniors about using their services as the go-between between Uber and Lyft, and we had 45 people show up for it. So any conversation we have about transportation, their seniors are very open and they want to know about the services being provided. And I think what's going to be real interesting to see about the services is whether or not they're going to be able to deal with seniors that have mobility issues. And just because even for the Arrive talk, the number of seniors we transported with our Easy Ride system in just to come into the talk was far more than I really anticipated, of how many said, well, I'd like to come to the talk, but I need transportation just to even get to your center to hear the talk. So.
Yeah. Thanks.
But I was going to add or ask a question of, and I say it as a disabled writer from West County, is when I hear that you went out to groups of seniors and I don't hear the word disabled, and that means that you just forgot to, I don't know if you forgot to cover us, you probably didn't, you just didn't, for some reason or another, get to disabled, because a lot of the solutions that are mentioned are ones that are not accessible to people in wheelchairs, for example, at all, like Lyft, Uber. Of course, why would people although I did go to one of your talks, but it was knowing already that I couldn't use it, because it's not accessible, and because they don't take people in wheelchairs, and especially in a chair like mine, which is a power chair. And so these are not even alternatives. The driver, where a driver takes you around somewhere, those don't work either. I mean, all these, a number of these solutions actually only are for seniors.
And even sometimes seniors are disabled. So we, didn't distinguish between, are you senior, are you disabled, are you a senior that has disabilities that limits your ambulatory?
But if you're talking about solutions that are only for people who are not in wheelchairs, then you never get to solutions that are for people in wheelchairs regardless of their age. And that looks kind of to me like what happened.
We did make quite a number of contacts with people who were not able to drive or were, so there was a whole range.
I'm talking about people who can't travel in a sedan.
Okay, so people that can only use ADA.
People who are in wheelchairs.
Right. So those would be, we did reach out, and El Cerrito, you provided us actually with a really good list of people who had designated themselves disabled. That's, I don't know where they came from, but with the city they had registered, and we contacted them. And there were people that came to our meetings who had no options other than an ADA type.
No, I'm saying something different completely. What I'm trying to say is, if you use a wheelchair, and you look at the solutions that you're coming up with, a number of them we could never use.
That's probably true. Wheelchairs are much more limited in what their options are.
Right, but what are the ones then for wheelchairs of the solutions becomes?
So right behind you or right in front of you, I guess, is the major needs. Travel training, I think, is for anyone. I mean, that's something we're hoping to implement, and it can work for anyone. Outreach, same thing. Improved coordination, we did hear people.
The second one is medical appointments.
Oh, well, okay, so these are kind of needs that are expressed, how they get to their medical appointments. We didn't come up with anything other than saying people are explaining to us.
I guess what I saw in reading the report was stuff like there could be drivers taking them around.
Oh, personal drivers?
In their own car is what I assume it meant, isn't it?
To medical appointments?
To any appointment, I would assume.
That's a possibility.
But it doesn't work for if you use a chair like this, for example.
Right. So your ADA.
So the solutions are geared towards people who are not in wheelchairs. Is really what.
So I think, and I brought a copy, and Janet, you and I maybe have to have an offline conversation because unfortunately the day we presented and you couldn't be there. We didn't actually come up in this report with solutions, like definitive solutions. This is the answer, and this is how many people will use it, and this is how much it will cost.
I'm not even talking about that. I'm just saying that I actually don't know that I seek solutions for people in power wheelchairs, period, that are different from things that are already in use. Maybe I'm not remembering completely, but because I'm not at the second thinking about it. What I notice is solution after solution for how people get around that wouldn't be usable.
Well, fixed route transit and ADA paratransit is about the only solution for people in power wheelchairs.
Right, but there are all these solutions shown. I'm just looking at a chart now.
So
but
maybe by
anyway,
default it sounds like more of the audience.
I'm actually looking at a chart on page 4-69.
In the packet?
Yeah, it's in our packet. Do you have our packet?
This one here? Oh, okay, I'll go back to that.
Okay, so looking at...
That one?
Yeah. So looking at the bottom side, travel training actually doesn't get us around. It's not a mode of transportation. Volunteer drivers doesn't get us around because they don't have lifts. Local shuttles usually, depending on what that means, usually are not accessible. And then these other ones, Solano, I guess that's Solano Transit. They don't go, they don't take you around West County. They take you to Solano County. WestCat only takes you where WestCat takes you. So you either pick between WestCat or AC Transit. Golden Gate goes to Marin, so that doesn't get you around. Capital Corridor only has one stop in West County currently, so it doesn't take you anywhere in West County from West County. BART, yeah, but that's fixed route. It's not a alternative to fixed route. And then the next, I don't know if El Cerrito's on here. Is that Easy Ride?
Yeah.
That's Easy Ride. Okay. The three city ones, they only do whatever they do for their residents, and those, I know that the El Cerrito program is accessible. I think San Pablo is. Okay, but our transit, I don't. You will be, but you're not currently. Okay. So then we've completed the picture, and there's hardly anything that a person in a wheelchair
I know, you're right.
can do.
You're right.
And then you say that you went with all these seniors.
Well, we went to senior centers because oftentimes that's where people have lunch, and so we got on their
It's where
program.
seniors have lunch, but it's not where
Okay.
people in wheelchairs necessarily have lunch.
Yeah.
Anyway, it lacks solutions that work for the group of people that personally
Yeah.
I happen to be a member of, and know a lot of people and have had experience in for over more years than we need to talk about, I guess, since probably in the 80s, actually. We're the ones that are hard to get around, that literally cannot get around. Literally. I mean, there is like no way for us to get around a lot of these things. And I know that we're the most expensive category of people to get around. But it seems to me that some effort needs to be spent on finding solutions that work for the group of people who needs it, I would say, the most, because they don't have another solution. Probably most everyone else can, one way or another, get in a car if there's a car there for them. But if a car comes for me from this meeting, I can't get in it. You know, I'm trying to get right now to the conference at Bishop Ranch, which I'm blanking on the name of course. Peter? The Mobility Summit. I haven't yet figured it out, although somebody is working with me on it. This is a normal problem for somebody that uses a wheelchair. It's not abnormal for a person in a wheelchair. So I would hope that we would devote some time
We
and
did
come
do
up with the actual
surveys,
solution.
and actually we did get some surveys, fortunately, back from people who were strictly wheelchair bound and
Not bound, but users.
users. And one of the things we heard, and I'm sure you could validate this too, was transfers. So if you're on an ADA paratransit service and you are in a wheelchair and you want to go beyond West County, matter of fact, if you want to go even from Richmond to Rodeo, which is within West County, you have to two different operators. So transfers was a big issue too. We heard about.
But what solutions do you have for that?
Well, coordination, better coordination, and then ultimately it would be really nice to have one provider who does ADA on the corridor. But, you know,
Not if the ADA service only, what happens unfortunately with ADA service, it happens within a city, even in my city, for example. I'm actually on the city council, so you'd think I'd have a little more pull, I guess. But they reduced the hours of service to our country club. It's the only facility in town that houses an event of that size. So a lot of public events are held there as a result of that. But they now cut off at, I think, 7:30. Is that right? Maybe you don't remember, line 7. And so I can't go to the evening meetings.
and that's unfortunate. I know we didn't have any solutions
transportation.
for those kinds of things other than there needs to be more money.
Well, no, I mean, that's pointing out that if you ask the question about the one thing, then you'll get answers about the same thing, right? But if you ask what are the problems, and you can find the people to ask where they are, and they do exist, then you may in fact get different answers. Like, how does one get from anywhere to anywhere is kind of really the question all the time, until you figured out the answer, or that there is no answer. I guess what I would, I don't know that there's money to enhance the study, but I would just, if it's about the benefits for seniors and it's called that, then that's fine. But if it shouldn't be called, it seems to me, the producing benefits for a group that the answer is, well, there really aren't very many benefits, and that they're just get to stay home, but I'll be quiet now. Anybody else want to say anything?
Right here.
Lori.
So, Janet, I want to echo some of your thoughts, and I just want to ask Joanna if the study will be, what's the anticipated date of adopting?
Oh,
the
it was
study?
adopted officially
So-
on February 23rd, and it's going to be on our website by the end of the week. So the study's done. There's no additional funding to enhance or do anything else, but there's talk of going this week to the board meeting to ask for funding to do more outreach and travel training and support the CIL 5310 grant, so that what we heard out there was we're not getting enough information to the people who came even to the outreach. They want more, and I think Janet Bilbis made a good point that 45 people came to a class and over 100 people came to a thing about Lyft, and I mean there's just a lot more that can be done to inform people about what their options are.
But it was adopted by WICTAC, the WICTAC board. So
It's a WICTAC study.
Yes. Oh, well, I was thinking that maybe other cities who would in West County who would have to use it. You know, in order to apply it, it has to work. I mean, you know, when you think about immobility, you think about people. You know, if you're immobile, like in a wheelchair, and it's not working for people who are wheelchair users, then I don't necessarily think it's complete. Or is there a way to, and you just kind of spoke to this, but is there a way to amend it so that we can
spend all the money?
I know, but I'm just saying, is there a way to amend it to at least look at this segment of users?
That's a good question. So if the mobility management group feels strongly, or this group wants to recommend, we can go back to the WICTAC board and ask for a study or ask for enhancement to the existing study. Now, none of these cities are having to adopt it. None of the cities are going to be held to the study. The study doesn't tell them to do X, Y, and Z. It just says, here's where we see gaps and issues. But that said, if that's the priority and the WICTAC board decides they want to dedicate funds to look at strictly people who have no other options than to use ADA and fixed route, ADA, paratransit, and fixed route, that could be something. Except I think probably what Janet said earlier, Jerry Wilson said, you know, we might have the answer that there is no answer other than more money to expand the bus service, which expands the time of day in which the 7 bus goes to Mira Vista Country Club. I mean, I think those are the easy answers. We weren't looking for easy answers. We were looking for where we could provide more support to the existing.
Well, I think that that option should be explored more, no matter what we come up with, solutions we come up with. But if we really, really focus on wheelchair-bound users, I got bound from you. Okay, but wheelchair users, then I think that it will give us and provide some information in terms of how we deal with this locally, at least for our jurisdiction. You know, and I would recommend that the study go back to the board. I hate to do this, but I would recommend that it goes back to the board with carving out that piece of it, just an enhancement to that piece to kind of say we need to focus on that more. That would be my recommendation.
Okay, great, thanks.
Was that a motion?
I don't know.
Oh.
Okay.
Well, I'll say it's feedback for sure.
Okay.
And in the mobility management group, we meet every other month in May. We can do that, talk about whether that wants to be the focus. The ADA operators, both WestCat and East Bay Paratransit, didn't feel that there was much in the study that was going to change their way of operating because they're bound to the federal laws, the ADA laws. So we didn't go deep on that. But I think we did explore, and not to point to Richmond, where there's some big shortcomings and issues, and I think I'll quote the mayor on that. Tom Betts said it's a highly dysfunctional program, so we'll fix what's at home first.
Well, if I can comment on that, this is the next item that's up for discussion.
Well, that's a good transition, right?
But we have since, I have a lot of things to report, and we've since found a solution to our problem.
Before we do that, let me catch up with you. So that's the next agenda item. Are we done with this agenda item then? Okay, go ahead, Mike, and then we'll eventually get to the next item on the agenda?
Yeah, I just wanted to
That's okay.
clarify with you. You had mentioned my name at the beginning of this presentation, that identified me as an individual.
No, I said, I think I might have heard you say that you had said something about studies, that we don't need to do more studies. Is that you? Might have been someone else.
I don't recall, and that certainly is not how I feel.
Okay, great. I'm glad you support the study concept.
Hey, are there any other comments on item number 4? Rashida?
Yes, actually, I had a question regarding the call center piece. I completely missed it as a possible
A long-term strategy.
for phase 2.
Well, we're not doing a phase 2. We just have short-term and long-term strategies. But is this what you're talking about?
Yes, correct. So looking at it as a long-term strategy, is there a reason why, and I don't know, that's the reason why I'm asking, but is there a reason why the use of 211 is not incorporated in this as part of the long-term strategy or even short-term?
I don't think we dove deep enough to know whether it's 211. One of our board members suggested we use 511, but there's no real, we've talked about it here, how to do call centers, where to use what existing infrastructure for call centers. We don't have that answer. We just know that a lot of people want to call one place and get all their information.
Because to piggyback on that, one of the things that, and we just did a regional workshop a couple of weeks ago, where 211 was one of the panel members and presented on there. And what was interesting to me is that they work really hard at actually finding, and I'm going to use this word loosely, solutions, because that's what all of us want. And when you refer back to individuals that actually use wheelchairs, we're looking for solutions. So since they spend so much time and energy trying to find the solutions, whether it's through, the TNCs or the mom and pop providers, they may be a resource in order to find the solution that you cannot find off the top.
I think that's a good one. We had them come here and speak, and then we just went to a presentation in Alameda County, and 211 said the same things. They're not looking just at transportation, but were you there?
Yeah.
We're on the brainwave.
Okay.
I just remembered something, Michael. It was Doug Cross was talking about County Connections doing a study with Doug Cross. Wasn't that it?
That's on our agenda, I believe, right?
Not today, but last time I was
I mean,
here.
I was just reading the minute. Was I reading the minutes? That
And
was what it
last
was.
time he was here, and someone said, not you, Michael, that we don't need more studies. That's all I remember. So when I came here, and I've heard that, and I've even known to say that, I thought, I want to just preface it by saying this study is hopefully leading to additional change and additional service and additional benefits. And I also want to thank the West County members who actively participated on this study, who are all here, but not all the other people, but there's about 10 people, the county, Peter, all of, this wasn't done in a back room. It was done very transparently and with a lot of input. So thank you for having me.
Well, I have another question. I'm sorry.
Okay, so just
Okay.
do you have it
I
on
do.
the side? Go
I
ahead.
have another question.
Go ahead.
So, Joanne, if I made a recommendation to amend the study, how would that impact this study moving forward?
It's moved forward. The study's over.
No, I mean, like, how would it impact it at all?
I don't
And
know
that's been
if we did an
Dr.
additional deeper dive, and let's just say we focused on people who have wheelchair users that aren't mobile to use anything other than ADA services. That might change some of the focus, I don't know, of where we want to go in the future.
If I could add on to that and maybe take it up kind of one level different or in a thinking, is that it isn't whether or not that's all they can use, because maybe what the hope is that they can use things other than just that. Maybe there's some solution too that gets them more trips than the ADA service can get, because while the ADA may be wonderful at what it doesn't have an infinite amount of money, right, Mallory? And they only provide as much service as they have money for. So that is a limitation of ADA service. and I guess will always be, but maybe we'd like to have more service in that in our communities, and that's why we have Measure J, for example, is that it helps to take us further in that loop of providing more service. But what we could do is say if there were funds available, and we would have to identify and get approved those funds somehow, whoever the we is, maybe it's could be a variety of whoever's. It could be CCTA, WICTAC, or somebody else. Then these are some additional study areas that would be of interest. That would be a thing that we could say if somebody made a motion to that effect.
Well, it could be you.
Well, I'm the
You said, whoever you said it, well stated. I think it.
So, no, hold on. This is an information item, so we can't take action on it.
Oh, okay.
This was just brought to this full committee just to let you know what West County did as far as this study. It's probably more appropriate that it go, either go to the mobility management group and you guys ask WICTAC to take it forward again, and that action could be taken at WICTAC versus, or it could be taken here, but it can't be taken here today.
Mm-hmm. Or it could be taken to WICTAC if you were interested in the same type of recommendation or some other recommendation either way.
If I could, I'd rather it come back here. Not that WICTAC would handle it, but I'd rather it come back here so that the full committee can.
This is an advisory group, right? Is that right? I mean, I think in the past, PCC usually approves things pertaining to CCTA things, but WICTAC does their own, like 20B and things that happen in West County stay in West County. I don't know if that's
not
right.
all. It depends.
I mean, this was a study that was funded completely by West County Measure J funds. So I don't know if there's interest in the other parts of the county to get into West County's business on this. Maybe there is, and I haven't heard that part of the discussion. But I guess my gut's telling me if, maybe the best place to handle it's in West County.
So then why was it brought to this council?
That's why there's no action being required.
Oh, so, okay. So can you tell us here how we get it on whoever calendar we need to have it on to make this recommendation? Should it go before the WICTAC, for the WICTAC committee, as a recommendation to the WICTAC board? Or how should we handle that?
I guess my suggestion would be to bring it to the mobility management group first, and then see how the rest of the mobility management group feels about doing that. And if that's where the pressure or the interest lies, then taking that to the WICTAC board. But since we already went to the WICTAC board with the study, there was an opportunity there if someone wanted to suggest that we do this, but we hadn't heard that. I mean, this is kind of fragmented. So I think we wanted to make a consistent message to the WICTAC board that this is the study that we were designated, scoped out to do, and everyone agreed this is what the topic was. If we want to go into a deeper dive, that's something that we never heard before.
Okay, and I think that we should, because it sounds like, as Janet put it, that sometimes we can leave out, or we have left out, the most immobile wheelchair users. And we have to find a solution to that. And I don't think that, there could be 10 more studies produced, but if we don't address that right now when we're talking about mobility management and have a study, then where would it ever be addressed and when?
I guess that's not a question that anyone's.
It's not a
It's
question.
a rhetorical
It's a
question,
statement.
probably. Yeah. Finished?
I'm done.
Okay, Janet.
From what I hear, Janet, it's wheelchair transportation, which is very important. I don't think it's just West Contra Costa County. I think it's across every area.
International.
So I think if that is something that we want to do, I don't think it's necessarily on West County with WICTAC just to do it. That is something we should look as a group across the board. So we shouldn't do segment repair just West County. That's something I think should be at a much larger group that can affect how everyone is dealing with wheelchair and really work as a cohesive group.
Michael, and then I thought I saw a hand, but did I? Maybe I didn't. Okay. Michael?
Yeah, and it's just a comment, Peter, and it's just that if we're going to be made in the presence of a presentation, I think we have a right to comment about things that may even go beyond, that particular group, which I agree with you on. Because if you'll look, the presentation itself contains numerous images of an ADA vehicle with a wheelchair going up to it. And I think what's being said here is that that doesn't really seem to affect a lot of people, does it? When you think about a person who's actually dependent upon the wheelchair, it's of a certain size, and yet you have visuals showing that as being one of the things that you are providing.
I'm not saying that West County or anywhere in Contra Costa County is adequately providing services for wheelchairs. No. No one's saying that, and no one sees that. And again, I think money is bottom line an issue. But are we in West County remiss more so than anywhere else now?
Mallory?
I think I just want to add my 2 cents. I think that where this group and where 2CTA comes in is when you're looking at alternative service, whether it be volunteer driver programs, Lyft, Uber, and there's funding that's associated with it through 2CTA, then there are some requirements that you could put on them that they have to provide that accessible piece in order to secure funding to do a pilot program with Lyft and Uber, to do a pilot program with X, whatever it is, Go Grandma, Silver Ride, whatever that may be. And that, I think, is where, this group can impact it, that when you're reviewing applications and you're proposing alternative services to traditional ADA paratransit services, that you can put those requirements on them, that you have got to have an accessible component in order to make everybody whole, that we're all treated as equals, whether you be a senior in a walker or somebody in a power chair.
Anything else?
Well, thank you, Joanna. I don't know that it ended.
Oh, I mean, I'm more than happy to tell you about the study, and if anyone has any questions,
Did we
the
go
full
through
study, 70 pages, will be on our website, and feel free to contact me and can talk about it.
Thank you for the immense amount of work that I know that you did on this study.
It was really enlightening, actually. It was, for me, a very positive experience.
Great, thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda then is the City of Richmond's It's on. It's red. Oops. It's on.
Now it's working.
Now it's working. Yeah.
So I'm happy to and pleased to announce that the City of Richmond has finally figured out its paratransit service program, and that we are moving forward with putting the program in place, or amending it as the council has directed us. Right now, in the hands of our city attorney is the Lyft contract for ambulatory services, and then the City of Richmond staff will remain intact. The drivers will handle the non-ambulatory services, and then some of this that Joanna pointed out through the study, they'll be working on ride hauling services, improved coordination, same-day weekend trips and evening trips, outreach, and travel training. So they just won't, our internal staff just won't have the job specs of driving, non-ambulatory. They'll also do all of these other things. And we have met with staff, we've met with respective representatives, and everybody's delighted that we're moving in this direction. We've already began the process of moving forward with this, so I anticipate that We talked with Lyft about the contract implementation date, the commencement date. So I anticipate sometime in April we will have our contract in effect with Lyft. And that's where we are now. So I'm hoping that we can really have a viable service that would include, we did talk about wheelchair-bound, individuals as well.
Users.
Okay, wheelchair users as well. And some of that, it was a very detailed, comprehensive conversation, to say the least, and really one of our main objectives with working and contracting out with Lyft, because Janet, you and I had this conversation before, we were thinking about going to Lyft a year ago, was ensuring how would they really deal with the wheelchair users. And so part of the contract is that they're going to, at some point, move in that direction. We're going to start the program first, and we're going to have a conversation around how they begin to look at drivers who have the vehicles to accommodate wheelchair users. That may be part of our contract, part of the language that we put in the contract now, so that in the future, maybe phase 2 of this, we begin to start moving in that direction. But for now, it would be our staff, our drivers on staff now handling that. So I'm pleased that we've gotten over this hurdle, and we can just keep our transit service in place now.
Do you have an implementation date?
So yay! I don't know how Lyft does their. We're going to do like concierge service from our office, and so that's part of the travel training that we'll do. Lyft is going to train our employees. Some things we'll have their system that we kind of tie into. It'll be a 24/7 operated service, except for the wheelchair piece. That is around 8 o'clock at night.
Still wouldn't be able to go to. Still wouldn't be able to go to that dinner.
Oh, well.
As an example.
But this is one thing that we talked about that we may incorporate later on is our staggered hours for our staff. Like the ones the drivers who are doing the non-ambulatory. Not working 8 to 5, but maybe a shift of 8 to 5, and then a shift of maybe 2 to 9, something like that. So we have longer service hours in there. So that was talked about as well. But everybody's pleased about it. They love that we're offering the service. They love that we're contracting with Lyft to have, service availability. And then that we are offering opportunities for our staff to really work with our clients and offer outreach services as well.
Rita?
What is the cost to the rider?
Well, that part, we are still trying to figure that out now. We don't, right now as it stands, it's still $160-something that we talked about earlier, but that was due to staffing problems. We've since worked around that, and we need to come up with a figure, but it's not. I'm sure it's not going to be 160 something. Let me just say this: that we're able to do this. To the fare to the rider. I'm sorry, I'm thinking about. Okay, well, the fare to the rider is still going to be the $4 one way, but we had talked about dropping that to possibly $2, maybe $2 to $3. But we definitely talked about dropping it, and we will.
So if you do that for the system for your, so you've got what you're saying is you would have two systems, right? Lyft, and then the other one is your in-house system?
We're going to have our in-house system for
they would be the same price to the user?
Same price to the user, yes. Mm-hmm. Because our Measure J funds will cover, we're not even touching our general fund. I'm not touching the general fund. We're going to do all this with the Measure J funds that we receive.
Janet, do you have a question?
And I want to add that the contract with Lyft is a contract that we pretty much work out. It could be $100,000 a year or $300,000 a year. It just depends on how much service we need. And we told them right now we need 24-hour, 7-day-a-week service, and even going as far as coming out of our geographic area, maybe coming to Martinez, to the Veterans Hospital and the county hospital there.
Janet?
No, I didn't have any questions.
Oh, I thought I saw your hand. I'm sorry. Lisa? Or is it...
No, it was me. No, not Lori. Let's not confuse it. So my question is, so Lyft is only going to charge the same amount, or are you supplementing the cost for the Lyft ride? Is Measure J supplementing the cost of the Lyft ride? Or Lyft is only going to charge $4?
Lyft is going to charge an amount. Okay, I have to look at the contract to see what that amount is, but it all equates to the user paying $4 or less, and we're able to accompany paying that with the Measure J funds that we receive. So if Lyft charges, let's say they're coming to Martinez or going to Martinez from Richmond, and Lyft says, okay, it's $25. Let's just say that's what the cost is. Then we will supplement all of that. That answers your question, except for, let's say, $2 is something that the user would pay minus the $2,
Right.
And that's supplemented with the funds that we receive.
So do you have any kind of an estimate on how many trips you're going to have? If you're doing 24/7 trips where ambulatory passengers can go anywhere and use the Lyft 24/7, has there been any financial impact done of that? Because that could be
it's not anywhere. They still only get to go in our geographic area now. And if we mention that they can come to Martinez, to the Veterans Hospital or somewhere out here, then they're limited to that. And so it's that if they take it somewhere else outside of our geographic area, they have to pay for that out of pocket.
But even so, if it's a $25 trip, I'm just making this up, I don't know what it is, to go from Richmond to Martinez, and the rider's paying $4, you've got $21 on one trip that you have to supplement with Measure J funds. Is that how it's working?
Yes, and then we have a cutoff point too, to where if we're saying that the contract is only X amount of dollars, I think we get like 800 something thousand a year. So if we just say we contract out with Lyft to do half of that, then we'll know at that cutoff point where it ends and where it stops.
But has there been any financial analysis? Because you could run out of half of that Measure J money supplementing the Lyft trips in, a week, a month?
No, we do know.
6 months?
We do know. After having conversation with Lyft, and this is not the first time that they've done this. This is not the first city they've done this in. They work in other cities across the California region, okay? And we check with those cities, and I check with those cities, to be honest, and those cities have been operable for quite a number of years using Lyft services. And and I'm talking about just for paratransit services. And Joanna may have information about that too, because that was actually forwarded to me when we were trying to figure this solution out. The Lyft provider was that was a discussion that we had, and so we've been having this discussion for a couple of years now about Lyft and doing the service with them. And these are the various questions that we had and we asked, and so no, we're not going to run out because it's how we manage that. And how we manage the rides.
And just to confirm, so in the packet was the information that came from the city council meeting from, whatever that date was, I think it was February 27th. So this is the option number 2, which is provide service for non-ambulatory passengers only and seek a contract with ride-sharing service, which now is Lyft, to provide services to ambulatory passengers, right? Okay, and do all of your vehicles can all of your vehicles accommodate any type of wheelchair?
Yes, all of them. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mallory?
I have a quick question. You're showing salary and wages at 406, and it looks like you have a generous benefit package, which is equal to your base wage. And so how many drivers is this covering? It's close to, 800,000, 13.
Yeah, well, it's going to cover about 4 drivers. Some of our drivers have left, and so it'll cover about 4 drivers.
Which part is that?
This is their Measure J claim that's showing salary and wages and benefits outside of the cost pool for Lyft, which is $365,000, but wages and benefits for 4 drivers totals $813,000.
Well, not for 4 drivers. We were including the whole staff. So we had a staff of 7, and that's now reduced to 4.
I have a question about that. So the money that would go to Lyft is shown where?
What she said.
I'm assuming it says $365,000. It says cost pool.
Well, we're not. The cost pool is the $365,000 is what the city was paying in addition to. That was just to kind of subsidize Lyft through our general fund.
That's going away, right?
That's going away.
Yeah, but so the Lyft cost, the cost of using Lyft is, I assume, a outside contract, whatever you call it. I don't know, but it's that category. And the salaries and wages is internal, so it includes the cost of drivers for the wheelchair users, and it also includes the people who work in your office.
Correct.
But don't provide trips. Whoever that is, I don't know.
Everyone that works in the paratransit service area.
In some capacity or another. And that would be overhead for both the Lyft and the
Lyft and the drivers and the internal staff. But the internal staff is changing. They're all becoming drivers because they have the ability to drive, and one to two of them, 2 of the 4, will be also working on scheduling during a certain time of the day.
So the scheduling, I guess, so some people, some staff of Richmond, their wages would cover jobs that relate to both Lyft and to non-Lyft rides, right?
Well, so it's all related to paratransit. This service is all related to paratransit.
Right, as a whole?
As a whole.
Okay.
Yes. So I guess if I'm understanding your question, what you're saying is that...
So I think what I'm trying to say, if I could say it I think I can maybe... So there's overhead, and then there's operations, right?
Correct.
So some of the costs are operations, some are overhead.
Correct.
So the operations, I'm not sure how you're showing it, but it may be divided into 2 parts. One part is Lyft operations. One part is
city
operations. You call them city?
The drivers, yes.
And that would be the people in wheelchairs.
Correct.
Part, okay. But then other part is what you call overhead, you said?
No, you said.
Okay, what do you call it?
What would I call what? You said that you asked that Lyft, the operations piece would be Lyft and the drivers.
Okay.
And then you say that the overhead would be
like the people who
the internal staff who's scheduling.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So those people are. That's what I was calling overhead. I don't know what your word for it is.
Okay,
whatever your word for it is.
That's what it is. It's overhead.
Those would be across the Lyft and across the other drivers, the drivers that are employees of your system.
Okay,
so the question I was really wanting an answer for is to know that in fact is how you're doing it. No, I don't care what your name is for it. That's your business. But you know what I'm asking? Are there those categories so that not all of the overhead is paid by either the lift category or the wheelchair user category? Does that make sense?
No, that's me. I'm just, because I'm not sure what you're asking. You're saying that not all of the, you're asking that not all of the overhead is paid through Measure J funds, is that what you're saying?
No.
Okay, but you're saying not all the overhead is paid to lift?
Or to the wheelchair user category, whatever you call it. Either one, doesn't matter. I don't know what your names are. That's what my problem is.
It's internal. It's internal.
Maybe I can,
No, it does not.
maybe I can help clarify something. So this budget that people are looking at is what the city put together for this year's city budget for the paratransit service. So this was prior to the city's decision to move forward with Lyft. So the budget that will include Lyft is not here. So this cost pool that they include in their budget, and it's how the city budgets, they cover that with the general fund. So Measure J just pays these other things. So my assumption is when we see this new budget, the salaries and wages will be smaller, and then what's saved from there will be covering the Lyft contract.
Correct.
Because they've reduced drivers since what they budgeted for at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, don't refer to this if you want to know our past service. I didn't know you were referring to this.
Well, I just thought it was the right category.
We don't have a budget for Lyft. This is a report to the city council
and that's okay.
To talk about some alternatives.
It isn't the numbers or anything that I'm looking at either. I'm just looking at kind of what I want to know is that whatever categories you come up with, there'll be one that I refer to as overhead, but you may refer to as something else completely. But it means that it pays for that office use for both categories.
Oh, no, absolutely. That's what the funds are. That's what Measure J funds are for, to pay for the operations and any staff cost that's associated with paratransit and providing the service.
Well, it would pay for all of the categories, wouldn't it?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It does.
Okay. I think. Okay.
As long as we're providing the service, yes.
Thank you. Let's see. If you're finished, I'll go on to Rashida, and then, or was it Lisa? It was okay, Rashida.
Well, I wasn't going to try to backtrack since we may have detangled it. But if the Measure J funds were being used strictly for the operational cost of the Lyft program, then the staff that may use, let's say, 75% of their time managing your city-based program, and yet 25% of their time overseeing whether it's calls or dispatching or faxing a piece of paper to Lyft or answering a "my app didn't work" question, just that 25% of the time, out of which funds are we taking that overhead again to pay for staff allotment, that 25%, as an example?
Well, let me just say this, that since the city has been receiving Measure J funds, we've always been in compliance, but we've used those funds to supplement staff costs as well as the operations. And this is one reason as to why we got into this, how we got into this position in the first place, because we just never had enough staff to cover all the operations and the increased need for the Richmond geographic area. So, and outside of that, because we cover more than just Richmond. So, we're going to use that, whatever percentage it is that we've been using and that we've been allotted, we're going to use that for that purpose. We just could not afford to subsidize from the city's budget, the city's general fund, paratransit. And that's why we ended up into this crunch we've been in. And so we have to figure out a way to make this program work, make these services work with all of the Measure J funds that we are receiving. So this plan really relieves our general fund, and it helps us to have a manageable service, quote unquote, so that we can be able to offer those services, but working with a provider who can assist us with what we've been unable to accomplish due to lack of staff.
Are you finished over here, both of you?
No, I just wanted to clarify. So your sources of revenue will be your user fees, which you have in here now, and your Measure J funds, correct?
That's correct.
Those two pieces of revenue are going to now cover the cost. So it's about $841,000 from Measure J and some amount from user fees. We don't know exactly what that is. But those two sources of revenue are now going to cover the City of Richmond program and the drivers and the vehicles that you have and the rides that are provided by Lyft.
That's correct.
Okay. So I'd like to see maybe 4 or 6 months after the service has started how that's working, because that could be a model that other cities or whatever could use if that's a good working model, and you can do that amount of service with the amount of revenue that you have.
I concur, Lisa, and we do have to take this report to the City Council every 6 months so they can also evaluate it and see how successful or some of our trials that we're facing, if we face any. And so we'll share that same report with this committee.
Okay, I'm just as a break-in here, it's almost 3:30, and we'd like to be out by 3:30, so if everyone can be speedy, Janet, and then Rita.
Just one quick question, Lori. How much have you guys earmarked already for Lyft with the contract coming up, and is it set just dollar amount? Or is it a guaranteed number of rides that they'll produce for you? Or
The way the contract reads now is Lyft's standard agreement. And the way it reads now is that they will continue to provide the services as they're scheduled. We'll know that in our mind we may have carved out like $400K, but it may go up or it may go down slightly. It depends on the ridership. We want to do more in terms of our outreach, and we'll see how that builds up and what that looks like. So it goes back to Lisa's earlier question about can we end up, in a quandary where we just don't have enough revenue to cover the service. And we're going to be evaluating that as we get to schedule these trips. It's something new for us too. So it's trial and error for us, but we do need to begin somewhere. We want to see how this actually rolls out, and we may have to make some friendly changes in the middle of the program just to see how that's actually going. But it's what we have to work with now.
Rita?
Okay, my question kind of goes back to the beginning. In the cost per trip that Richmond has that's so high, what'd you say, $163. It's part of that from what the city has to pay the drivers that were on disability. Is that figured into that cost per trip thing?
No, listen, we've worked through that process. We no longer have anyone on disability on our staff now, as of the end of this month. I'm not paying double salaries anymore.
Peter, if I could ask you what we could postpone till another time and what we have to get done this time, or we want to get done this time, given that it's 3:30.
Mine will probably be lengthy, a little lengthy.
Okay, so yours is 6, right? Item number 6?
Yes. I might have more feedback at that point.
So we can postpone the next item, 6.
6, okay.
Just because of the timing on 7, I'd like to go ahead and do it.
Okay.
Because, I have to release the
And then
names.
8 we could postpone.
I think the other ones we can all postpone.
Okay, so then we just need to go to item number 7. And Peter, I think you're the one going to talk to us, right?
Yeah, so this is the claim form that we're proposing to use for this year's Measure J claims. I think the PCC asked that we include a couple items, and I'll get to those first in just a quick second. I just wanted to point out for ease of use, hopefully it's ease of use, I put this kind of more onto a form so that we can get a consistent structure from everybody, and it's a Word document, and you just click where it says click or tap here into the text. Operators can cut and paste from a previous version, so they don't have to re-put everything in. They can just cut and paste and then change whatever they want to change within that. So hopefully this will be an easier form to use. I've added, questions 4, 5, 6, and 7 that are on, these pages aren't numbered, 7.0-2, it says on the bottom. So question 4 is please provide a brief description of how your agency provides opportunities for passenger and potential passenger input. So that would be through, public meetings, it would be through outreach you provide, it would be through surveys, whatever. Just interested in hearing that. Please provide how your agency is monitored and what criteria, how your service is monitored and what criteria you use. So that's how do they monitor performance, the frequency of monitoring, and the reports that are generated. So that's the specific question that I think Debbie asked for that, gave us some information in the claim as how services are taking a look at their performance. Please describe how and the frequency your policymakers review your budget and other performance criteria. So how often you take performance reports to your city council or individual board. We're not requiring any number other than hopefully it's no less than annually, no less than annually. And then please provide any additional, just the general question, any additional information that they feel is relevant to the claim that they're making. We'd like to hear what that is. So I've included those 1, 2, 3, 4 additional questions, and hopefully putting this on a Word document that people can just click and fill or cut and paste in information will make it easier for them to submit their claims. I didn't make any changes to the spreadsheet portion, so that's still the same.
I have a question on how to use this system, just because I spent 6 hours doing the Form 700. And you couldn't just, on that system, you could not just cut and paste and do stuff like that. But on this system, you literally can just treat it like a Word document. It is a Word document. Thank you. On behalf of whoever might have to fill this out.
It's a Word document that's been turned into a form. So but it's a Word document.
Okay. I thought I saw a hand over here. Nope. Any questions, comments over here? Okay, and let's see, what are you looking for here?
We're looking for action to support the claim that I've set up here. I will let you know that Fifi and I,
right?
Yeah, Fifi and I are still, if you get the claim and it's like it was last year with these additional questions, because it wasn't working, and we don't want to send it out if it doesn't work. So.
Okay, so is there a motion?
Move approval.
Okay. There's a motion by Lisa Hammond, seconded by, who waived it? Oh, that's right, because you can't yet. Michael, and any comments from the audience? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition, any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously.
I will include real quick, I did talk to our finance manager today, and I will get the anticipated revenue numbers for next year next week. So by the end of next week or the week after, I'll have that information out to all the operators.
Okay, and with that, our meeting is adjourned till May 21st in this room at 2 o'clock. And thank you all for coming and for the lively discussion. And We'll see you next time.